Hi there, everyone. It is Michael James Garber from the Embodied Light Institute. Today, I'm going to be sharing with you one of the storylines that I've been playing around with, as there are so many in this new fantasy fiction series that I'm working on called Harmonia Rising Chronicles of Myarnia, which is about a fictitious planet that is going through a great transition. And in this world, there are so many different people there, and so I'm having fun exploring many different types of characters and storylines as I get more and more refined with how the storylines could possibly play out. In it, there are what seem to be real life, kind of like Earth stories. However, there is a layer of kind of dark sci-fi, mysticism, magic, and esoteric wisdom within the storylines themselves. And so this is one of those stories, and it is called Elias and the Weasel. Once upon a time, there was a wise man named Elias. He was a devoted servant of truth and wisdom. He spent his days dreaming up plans to assist his home village. Everyone loved him. He brought joy to every room he entered. Even people who felt forgotten and unworthy of love found peace in his presence and loving gaze. In the village was another man whom we shall call the Weasel. The Weasel was a circus rat in human form. He put on all kinds of performances and boasted about love and peace, yet in his inner world he lusted for power, wealth, and prestige, all for himself. The Weasel was jealous of Elias for many reasons, including his talents, his creations and inventions, his bravery, and even Elias's special radiance, which anyone possesses when they follow truth in their hearts. The Weasel sought to steal it all. One of the ways he attempted to do this was by weaving deceptive stories for those who loved Elias. Like all professional liars and evil weavers, he could use a story that was mostly true about Elias and then weave it into hooks of deception and seeds of discord that would flower within the minds of unsuspecting listeners. The weasel would use charm, compliments, and other methods to gain access to the listener's mind and heart. It was a type of mesmerization that all dark wizards know how to use to warp and bend their victim's consciousness. The listener, often someone with a great deal of compassion or history of giving their power over to someone else, would feel almost frozen within the dark wizard's gaze and current of influence. Their body would tighten and their heart would race, yet they could not move. They could not interrupt the transfer of the corrupt signal out of fear of being rude or having the special attention taken away. Yet their body knew, even if their conscious mind had not named it yet. They were being preyed upon and hunted. One of the false stories the weasel was weaving about Elias was that he had been taken over by another soul, a dark soul, several years earlier through a switching of souls, as he called it. Anyone with a basic understanding of esoteric knowledge knows that source intelligence has placed limitations that forbid and restrict such dark activity, as only the high councils of light have permissions to switch or reanimate a body for the purpose of a mission of light and positive evolution. The dark sorcerers can only do something much more amateur, something the weasel had already been participating in for years, and in fact, many lifetimes. Dark sorcerers, over many millennia, had learned that if they spoke to a power-hungry soul within their dreams, contemplations, and meditations, offering them power, wealth, and influence, the soul might become welcoming to the dark currents and open their field for their entry, a selling of the soul, if you will. The weasel had, in fact, been using aspects of his own dark story to weave a false narrative about Elias. For in the dark arts, every projection is a confession. He did this in the way he usually did, through victimhood stories, entitlement, and other dark machinations. One method he particularly enjoyed was erotic manipulation and spiritual inflation. He would find another man, one with insecurities and same sex attractions that were usually enshrouded in shame. He would then use these repressed emotions to tell the man that he was special, a chosen one, and use the erotic charge to gain access to his psyche, where he would plant his psychic hooks and seeds. When Elias heard of this, he was not personally offended. He was concerned about his village companions and knew something needed to be done to stop the weasel and protect others from harm. Elias went into the forest where he could quiet his mind, access the high councils of light, and devise a plan. They told him how the weasel wove his dark magical ways and described the four sources of influence that wove their currents through him. They happily shared that Elias could easily disarm the situation through remote viewing and a magical incantation that deconstructed dark technology and neutralized dark sorcery instantly. In a few days, a trial would take place involving the weasel, the kind lawyer representing Elias, and the good judge. Elias was given permission by the high councils to use a crystal ball to remotely view the courtroom, allowing the kind lawyer to represent him there while he stayed in the safety of the forest, viewing through the crystal ball. When Elias gazed into the crystal ball, he was surprised to see another case was being heard by the good judge before Elias's case of interest was presented. At first, Elias was confused about why he was remotely viewing this case. However, the counsels of light spoke to him within his inner thoughts, guiding him through yet another lesson in signal discernment. The case was between two people, one running the honesty and justice currents, and another running the deception current. The high councils asked Elias telepathically, "What do you feel? What do you see? What are you learning there?" Through observation and contemplation with the High Council, Elias could see that the honesty current did not require emotion or performance. The words spoke for themselves. Their weight could be felt without the need for exaggerated posturing. The deception current was easy to detect. Its narrative frameworks did not hold together. Its emotional performance was easily seen by anyone with true compassion in their heart, and numerous inconsistencies could be found by anyone who had a dominant signal of truth within their field. While observing the good judge, Elias easily assessed that he was a good person. He embodied honesty. He was diplomatic and forgiving, yet he maintained order with valiance and nobility. He was a judge aligned with the higher orders of life. The first case ended, and the case of interest was about to begin. Immediately, Elias detected that this case carried different currents. The kind lawyer was a surprise to the weasel. She was compassionate and kind, yet she was also trained in working with the field and practiced in white magic. Her appearance caught the weasel off guard. She was something for which he had neither prepared nor rehearsed. Within the first moments, he had already lost the potential for power placement upon the board. He had prepared an entire show, yet he was unable to use it. He did not possess true spontaneous intuition or creativity, as these were qualities possessed only by positively polarized souls. He could string certain thoughts and plans together, but he lacked the true intelligence of spontaneous innovation. The weasel began his speech. Entitlement and false empowerment were glaringly obvious beside the kind lawyer. A pompous display of arrogance ensued as he repeatedly interrupted the kind, feminine lawyer in front of the good judge. The good judge called out his abhorrent behavior multiple times as the weasel acted out the grotesque stereotype of the dark masculine shouting over the innocent feminine. The good judge continued to keep order, conducting the ongoing debate with honor and respect, while also establishing boundaries of safety and structure whenever the weasel stepped out of line. Elias continued to observe the evolution of the case while the High Council guided him through processes of field stabilization and the remote clearing of the courtroom. Elias helped the good judge release old wounds that kept him from seeing deeper layers of truth and empathetic resonance. He also helped the kind lawyer clear her energy centers so she could withstand the chaos and deception currents coming from the Wicked Weasel. Unbeknownst to the Weasel, Elias had been given the highest keys of access by the council. These keys allowed him to open portals through which many high beings of light could enter the courtroom and begin clearing the field of invasive energies and parasitic entities. In addition to the physical beings there, several dark sorcerers were present in astral form. 4 of them ran their currents of influence through the Wicked Weasel, something he had voluntarily allowed because of what they had promised him within the dark recesses of his psyche. Elias had been trained in many worlds and how to eradicate dark infiltration. In fact, all dark sorcerers and entities feared him because he was Source Intelligence's special device for dark force eradication. With a simple internal incantation, a mantra of the highest truth, Elias could easily remotely view all beings present, both seen and unseen, and send the dark sorcerers back to Source Intelligence to be recycled like that. It was easy for him, as the dark sorcerers knew there was no point in fighting. One by one, Elias cleared the room, including the field of the weasel. Elias smirked with delight as he watched the weasel squirm while his corrupt powers of influence, glamour, and emotional manipulation drained out of him, every last drop, leaving him bare and unable to achieve his dark agenda. The good judge knew something was amiss. He ordered a deeper investigation into the vault of records, knowing very well that he would find a well of lies, a heap of deceit. The weasel was given 2 weeks to turn over access to the vault of records. Really, he had 2 choices. He could turn over the records, which would reveal the breadth and depth of his attempts at deception, or he could flee to his homeland, the realm from which he was born, to escape what he knew was inevitably coming down the pike. Either way, he had already lost. You see, even a mediocre chess player knows that at a certain point in the game, there is no reason to continue playing when defeat is inevitable. One may move, squirm, and attempt all manner of maneuvers, but any mediocre player knows when the effort is futile. So the Wicked Weasel decided to make a run for it and flee. Typical for him. And run he did, with thunder and lightning and a tsunami of truth barreling towards him. He quickly packed up his stolen treasures and placed them in safe storage, leaving the keys to his vaults and treasures with a wise grandmother in the village. He made sure to leave everything behind that truly belonged to Elias. He knew he needed to leave as quickly as possible to avoid the good judge and the kind lawyer's next moves. Knowing he only had but a moment, he packed all he could into a small bag, leaving everything of Elias's behind. He left that night in a hurried flash, with the distant sound of a pack of hounds of redemption racing through the night forest towards him, barking and snarling, anticipating the hunt. Yet he could not find comfort because somehow he knew Elias could view everywhere he went, for Elias had the keys to open up all records of time and space, viewing all potentials, all probabilities of every atom in creation. There was no escaping the call for justice. He could only buy himself a little time. But run he did, back to his homeland, back to the realm from which he came, hoping that somehow he could escape what he knew was coming. Justice of the highest order. The weasel's many lifetimes of running the dark current upon the earth were about to come to their final end. Late at night, somewhere in the village, a wise woman awoke suddenly from a prophetic dream. She hurriedly reached for her quill and parchment, determined to record the vision before it faded. The hound of redemption had been let loose from his collar and chains. He stands at the threshold of what was and what is yet to become. He stands ready to weigh thy heart against the feather of truth, testing who shall pass and who shall return to the beginning of yet another cycle of incarnations. He growls at ignorance and barks at deception. He cracks his staff upon the obsidian tile floors of Amenti, crumbling false structures with sonic waves of light. No walls of severance shall remain standing. All falsity will lie in ruin upon the ground of beingness itself. Quantum waves of revelation will pound upon the parched and dry earth, quenching the cries for spiritual revolution and soul-led salvation. Distant howls rise from the rest of the pack as they awaken, hungry for the bones of ancient wisdom and salivating with holy desires soon to be fulfilled. All must strip bare before making the sacred crossing into the abyss of the great mysteries of becoming. Thou canst take nothing with thee but integrity and soulful alignment. Not even one fragment of what came before may be carried across, for all that was built upon the back of the great cataclysm of the previous epoch must now be surrendered. All must be renewed. Another crack of the staff resounds upon the cold tile floors, and houses and institutions of severance come crashing down upon the ground of being, making space for holy temples of wisdom and truth. Another crack of the staff, and all toxicity upon the earth is consumed by the alchemical fires of the Holy Spirit, making space for pure waters and living soils to spread across the garden once more. Another crack, and the body temples of all who heard the call and followed their inner truth are recalibrated into quantum expressions of stewardship and crystalline purity. Another crack of the staff, and the great night ends. The first rays of the unending dawn touch the quantum flesh of the children of Gaia. So gather round the sacred fires and purify, dear children. Empty thy pockets of this passing epoch into the flames, where its garbage may become the cinders of regeneration. We are children of a new era, come to howl at the moon and sing to the stars, and call forth the great night before the unending dawn. We stand guard around the children and the kingdoms of life, and we bite at the ankles of transgressors, for we remember. We guard the food that truly nourishes and the water that truly quenches, preserving them for those who will not spoil and pillage the kingdom of heaven on earth we have come to build. We are the answer to countless prayers and tears. We are the forms through which ancestral dreams of paradise become reality. The hounds of redemption have been let loose. The great night is about to come, and the unending dawn is just around the corner. End transmission.